one, the entry level or the early career stage, which is the first 10 years. Then comes the second level, which is primarily the middle level, the second 10 years. And the third is the third 10 years, which is where you reach the senior management position or where you reach a level of quote unquote end of the career stage. In all these cases, when you traverse from the first stage to the second to the third stage, there are different challenges and there are different factors which enable us to go up the ladder and which also acts as a hindrance for us to go up the ladder. The early stage, when you join the organization, you are there out there to prove yourself, to say that, okay, boss, I have arrived and I am here and I am doing my job extremely well. So we develop strong expertise in our core areas, core skills. Unless we show that extremely good skills at the core level, I am not going to get promoted. So my promotion is based on my performance and potential. Without performance or whatever potential we have, I am not going to get the promotion. So my performance takes definitely the precedence at that point of time. The second level, which is primarily a middle stage of our career, there is a stage where we have to learn to let go things. And we find it very difficult to let go things. That's the second stage. And the third stage in the leadership position is where I have to be emotionally strong enough to be a leader, and I have to have a good grasp of the whole business for me to guide everybody else across the functions through the business cycle. But the seed for this has to be sown in the first stage itself. So this particular thought came to us. So we came with the leadership series, a leadership series which talks about the business context of leadership, an 8-module series which is primarily aimed at people at the senior level, the last 10-year stage, which is going on. We have done about 5 modules of that quite well, and we have got participants from across, from one extreme Melbourne, other extreme is UK. We have participants from across the place for this program. The second program we are launching is primarily for the people at the first 10 years, which is what this program is. What is what to be a tea leader and what is that emerging tea leadership means. Okay. So a very brief agenda. So what is this tea leadership? And how do we correlate, integrate, and align ourselves to the business? What is the framework of this tea leadership perspective, what we are trying to share with you? And third is how this particular program is going to be phased out, or the methodology what we are going to follow in this program. And third is who are the people who are going to be handling this program. And finally, the journey, what dates we are planning to go for this one. When you look at tea leadership, it starts from the base level itself, where when you enter the organization, we gain an enormous skill, an enormous expertise in our core competence, in our core skills. But sometimes that core skills, which is that vertical part of the T, has to essentially extend to the horizontal part of the T. So what is this T leadership therefore? The vertical part of the T is primarily where you develop your core skills. I joined the organization as an operations person in the factory, or I'm joining the organization as an accountant in the corporate finance or an internal audit, or I'm joining the organization maybe in the sales function as a sales manager or sales officer trainee. So I develop my core skills at that point of time. At that point of time, in my eagerness to naturally fulfill my core skills or core areas of expertise, I tend to naturally have a difference of opinion with multiple other functions as well. As a salesman, I get absolutely upset that hey, whatever order I'm bringing in, these fellows in production are not accepting it because they're telling MOQ should be fulfilled. Or I'm in production, I get absolutely annoyed. And if he's bringing orders which are absolutely unviable for me to manufacture, who will set the machine for 1 hour and then run the job for half an hour? Or I'm in logistics, I'm absolutely disturbed when I'm asked to transfer material in a half truckload. So I find a lot of these challenges. That's where the blue area is understanding the blue area is primarily very critical, which is primarily the other functions. So when I emerge as a team leader, I develop that core skill extremely well, and I have a deep understanding of other functions and how does my function impact the other functions, how the other functions impact my function, how do I impact the customer requirement, and how do I impact the profitability. So this is essentially what team leadership is all about. But typically what happens? We are driven primarily by our KPIs. And our KPIs are predominantly monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, yearly. And this particular monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, yearly continues even beyond my first 10 years. It goes to second 10 years, and even third 10 years at times. This is where we don't develop leaders, we develop what is called as dolphin managers. In Singapore Zoo, typically a dolphin comes and does some exercises. The caretaker gives that dolphin some fish. It's so happy, it takes it and runs away. So like this, we start giving fish to the senior management or the middle management or the junior management for the quarterly, half-yearly, and yearly performance. And what kind of leadership am I going to look at? That's where we have a challenge. And over a period of time, I develop a very strong accumulated sins rather. The sins primarily is I hold on to my fort. I will not allow anybody else. It is my area, my domain, my function. Don't expect me to budge from this an inch. So this cartoon very clearly talks about that. And typically, if you look at, you find a lot of disconnect across functions. You can keep typing in the questions in the chat box because I'll be addressing the questions from the chat box. Don't worry. Keep typing the questions in the chat box. That's the easiest way to handle questions in virtual world. So typically, every function looks at a specific situation differently. How the R&D looks at, or how somebody, the agency, ad agency looks at, how the marketing looks at, how the operations looks at, how the finance looks at, the legal gives a warning. Leadership is in its own ivory tower. Ultimately, what the poor customer is looking for is whatever is in the fridge. So there is a huge disconnect across functions. So this is where we have to develop that interdisciplinary interface. An R&D understanding what the consumer is looking at, an agency understanding what the consumer is looking at, marketing understanding the challenges of operations, operations understanding the challenges of finance, sales understanding the challenges of legal. So this understanding of other functions is extremely critical when I'm going up the ladder. So, but what happens is all my core competencies, all my core skills get imprinted in my brain. It's like a thumb impression in my brain. And this thumb impression, every time I go up the ladder, I have a checkered ladder growth, typically. Initially, I go well. Suddenly, when I get a promotion, I suddenly get a shock. Hey, I'm not clear about what am I supposed to do now. Because suddenly my portfolio is expanding, my profile is expanding. I'm not able to cope up with this. Some people cope up with this, some people don't cope up with this. But whatever happens, I definitely develop a kind of a blind-sided specs. A blind side, if you look at this, I've given a blind-sided specs. It's not a 3D specs. A blind-sided specs, which looks at my function, looks at every problem from my functional expertise, and I ultimately get into what I call as cognitive bias. I carry a cognitive bias when I go up the ladder. I not only carry the traits of the functional expertise, I tend to carry the basic challenges which I faced in my functional expertise into the next level as well. Therefore, it is very critical to understand that we start our life in the vertical of the T. The leadership is at the top of the T. It cannot be a balancing act. It should be a perfectly balanced act. So how does balanced act happens? How my function interfaces with other functions. If I am in marketing, I need to have empathy with my salespeople. I have to have empathy with my distribution. I have to have empathy with my, I need to have empathy with my operations. How many times as a salesperson I have entered the factory? Maybe 4 times. Once while taking a customer in for a factory visit, or maybe I went there for chasing a customer order, or I went in because there was a customer complaint, or maybe by mistake I walked into the shop floor. How many times the manufacturing understands the challenges somebody in the market faces? How many times the HR empathizes the need for addressing the attrition? So my function interfaces with other functions. What is critical to understand is how do you develop this interdisciplinary interface? And this is what will carry me up the ladder, up the T to the horizontal part of the T. For going to the horizontal part of T, therefore, it is important for me to also understand how it aligns to the customer value. The best way to understand a function is to understand the function from the customer's perspective, not from my inside-out perspective. What do I mean by this? We join an organization. In the organization, they take us through an induction program. An excellent company, world-class company like Unilever does the induction so well, they get a phenomenal exposure across the functions. To such a level, an accountant may end up in HR. An accountant may end up as a logistics head. Quite possible. That is definitely possible in Unilever. And you find in Unilever, you also find people in R&D going up the ladder and becoming a CEO. So there's primarily because every function needs to look at how do I align to my customer value. If my customer watches me doing this, will he pay money for this? That's a very fundamental question I have to ask when I'm trying to understand my customer requirement. But that is not enough. It is also important for me to understand. It's also for me to understand that for every action, there is a financial reaction. How does my function impact the profitability? Most often, we take up initiatives in operations. Initiative like a TPM. Initiative like what you call a Kaizen. The first reaction is, okay, you've done TPM. What is the cost reduction? Businesses are not created for reducing cost. Businesses are created for improving profitability. So it is not enough to understand how my initiative impacts cost. It is important for me to understand how my initiative impacts my profitability and cash flow. So the deep-rooted expertise has to grow into absolutely broadening leadership skills. That's what leadership is all about. So what's the framework? What are the building blocks of emerging T leaders? A lot of E's in this. To encourage emerging T leaders, empathize and enhance interdisciplinary interface and enable them aligned to business goals. First and foremost, it is critical for the company to encourage. So I am working in internal audit. I go and try to find out how actually the operations are working. Suppose the plant head is telling, that is not your area. Why do you want to poke your nose here? It's not going to work. I'm in production. I want to understand how exactly the distribution happens. What is it you want to understand from here? So this is very crucial to encourage that. Then you can create emerging T leaders, a T leadership mindset from day one. A T leader who empathizes. Empathy is a very critical word. I am aware of what the challenge is. I am articulating the challenge and I am acting upon the challenge. That is empathy. If it doesn't have action, it is not empathy, it is sympathy. I need to have an action which is embedded in my empathy. So empathize essentially is that how am I going to make this particular situation comfortable for both of us? I am in production. I have a challenge of what you call minimum order quantity. But whereas my salesperson has got a challenge of not getting that MOQ in the market because there's nobody wants that kind of an MOQ. So is it possible for me to do something about reducing my MOQ? Hey, I am in sales. My production is telling this is a minimum quantity required. Is it possible for me to collect 2 or 3 orders and combine them together and create a MOQ? That is empathy. I am in sales. I promise I will deliver to any location in the world, including Timbuktu. But where the logistics is telling, no, sir, we cannot reach to that remote corners. So let me understand from logistics which areas he can reach. Can I convey to my customer, this is areas where we can reach. We can't reach to that remote location you're asking me to deliver. Can I deliver it in a place which is nearby, from where you can pick up? Or if you want me to deliver it, it's going to cost you more. That is empathy. And enhance interdisciplinary interface. This word is extremely important. Ultimately, business inside the organization is nothing but interdisciplinary interface. It's interfaces. Every day we have to deal with somebody else in the company. Am I correct? And that has to be enhanced, not by protecting my silo, not by protecting my territory, but by enhancing the interfaces. And thereby enable the people in the organization to align to the business goal of customer value creation and profitability. This is the theme of Emerging Tea Leader. So any business is an alignment. Business is there for a purpose, which is customer value creation. Ultimately, whatever I'm doing is my process, which is input, set of activities, and output should deliver this outcome called purpose. And that has to be done by the people. So ultimately, when I am talking about the people have to align themselves to purpose, align the process to purpose, align themselves to the process, thereby I can prosper. So this is the basic theme of alignment of James Womack. And this is a basic theme for understanding business also. How my function impacts other functions, how my function impacts customer, how my function impacts profitability. But we are in different functions. And each function has its own challenges, its own KPIs. We need not silos. We need to look at an integrated approach of looking at them in totality. Thereby, I can move from my campus to my organization more comfortably and seamlessly. This is the theme of Emerging Tea Leaders. So now let us look at the building blocks quickly. There are three words we have used here: correlate, integrate, and align. CIA. Correlate across other domains. What I am doing, how does it correlate to the other function? Integrate. I come with a great idea, but the idea has to be integrated to the current reality of the organization. I cannot come out with, suppose the organization doesn't have any clue about data crunching. I come and say, we have to have digitalization in place. Sorry, sir, we are not even having Excel in place. I have to integrate my solutions, my ideas to the ground reality of the organization. And ultimately align to customer, align to profitability. So every step I have to take has to have this correlate, integrate, and align as a critical mindset if you want to develop a mindset of a tea leader. So let us look at building block wise quickly. For each of the building block, we're talking about three specific themes. Gaining and retaining customer. If I am in any function, now I am look at the every building block, I will look at from the building blocks perspective and from the other domains perspective. If I am in marketing, my job is to gain and retain customers. Therefore, I need to understand the purpose which my product is serving. But I need to understand whether my organizational other functions have the capability to fulfill that purpose. I can't promise something which I can't fulfill. I cannot create something which I can't fulfill. It is very important for me to understand how well my organization is aligned to that purpose. If I am in operations, if I want to understand marketing, it is important for me to understand what is the purpose of what I am doing is serving. I am in a business which is making labels. Labels are not going to be a commodity. Labels are meant for my ultimate consumer to propagate his product at the point of sale. So if he wants variety to survive in the point of sale, definitely the labels are going to be in smaller quantity. The labels are going to be in smaller quantity. I have to align my processes to meet the customer requirement. I need to understand the purpose of my consumer. Without understanding the purpose of my consumer, I cannot understand where am I supposed to improve. So the purpose understanding is what is critical for gaining and retaining customer. Number two, I need to gain insights. Data, information with knowledge leads to insight. I infer and then gain an insight. I find this is a challenge my customer is having. Hey, can I create a business opportunity? My customer is telling, give me small quantity. Why should I give small quantity? You are giving small quantity because that's what my requirement is. Okay, I will do one thing. I can't definitely reduce my changeover time here. I will try to create something like a vendor managed inventory. So my insight has to lead towards that. If I'm in other function, if I'm in operations, if I'm in marketing, I need to understand this insight very clearly. Every time I meet my customer, I should look for this insight. And third and the most critical, of course, empathy. I am here to give solutions to my customer. If I'm going to give solutions to my customer, I need to understand the ground reality very clearly. So these are the critical 3 themes for gaining and retaining customers, whether I'm in marketing or whether I'm in any other function. The second building block is discovering the hidden profitability drivers. Consciously, we are talking about hidden profitability drivers. Number 1, for every action, there is a financial reaction. The financial reaction can be profit, profitability, or cash flow. Sometimes it may be worthwhile to compromise on profitability to gain cash flow. Especially in COVID times, I will look at that. I come with a grand idea, but the grand idea doesn't have a cash flow in place, then it's not going to work at all. Or this grand idea is not going to be profitable in the longer run. Why should I do that? So it should be very clearly understood how my actions lead towards a financial reaction, whichever function I am in. I'm in marketing. Can I sweep everything under the carpet of strategy and say, strategically, I have taken a decision, no clue what the impact is going to be? I cannot come with any initiative just like that and say, I'm doing TPM to next month, next year I'm going to TOC, next year I'm going to BPR, next year I will get into Six Sigma, then I will go to 5 years, then I will go to Kaizen. What is the financial reaction of these actions? Because my decision making has to be an informed decision making. Informed, not based on what is the information available, informed based on my customer impact and profitability impact. And very clearly, I have to understand the hidden capacities in my business. Ultimately, if you look at any business, a business has got some capacities. Business builds capacities. It may be capacity in terms of man, capacity in terms of machine, capacity in terms of space, capacity in terms of energy or utilities. Ultimately, how do I utilize these capacities? How my actions are leading towards utilizing these capacities better? That's what is a hidden capacity understanding is very crucial. The third building block is developing and retaining the right team. What kind of team? A team which is focusing on self-development. Self-development is not, I'm not talking about attend Baba Ramdev Shivir and develop a self-development. Self-development in the context of how my function impacts other functions, how other functions impact my function. That kind of self-development. And I need to naturally develop the team based on that mindset. A team of key leaders is what I require. Key leaders are not generalists. Key leaders are strong in their core area. And therefore, in every action I do, I should embed improvement mindset. People generally want to improve. It's not that people come into the office only for the purpose of getting their salary and going back. How do I embed improvement in every step I take? Which is very clear, very critical for developing and retaining the right team. The fourth building block is exposure to emerging technologies. Let us understand the people who are entering the company from the first 10 years are essentially the millennials. They are much more tech savvy than most of us. At the same time, they may get so romantic about the tech aspect as well and ignore the ground reality as well. So it is very critical for us to understand what is the meaning of going digital, where I need to go digital, where I need to take it slow. How do I look at the whole thing in the context of my customer and profitability? And how do I use going digital as a growth driver? That's where millennials can definitely contribute a lot. And what are the right technologies I need to use in my kind of business? How do I understand, map the technology to the business need? What the technology delivers and what my business needs? How do I match this Kundalini? It's very important. Next one, what we call as buyer-supplier interfaces, supplier distribution challenges, which is primarily the value chain, understanding the whole business as a value chain and the industry as a value chain. How the value gets created across from supplier to customer, and internally in the organization. Number two, ultimately, management of this value chain is movement. Movement of what? movement of information, movement of money, movement of value, movement of resources. So information, money, resources, and value. This is what supply chain management ultimately talks about. We are supposed to manage these four movements.
Oh.
I mean, in trying to manage these four movements, ultimately my business is to be looked at as a cash to cash cycle. What do you call as working capital cycle? So understanding the buyer supply interface, the challenges has to be looked at in the context of value creation. Value chain is not only customer value creation and profitability. The next building block is sales challenges, which are very crucial. Sales challenges primarily, there may be channel challenges. A channel wants it, so you have to modify. Hey, this product, though we are selling it in a pack, a mosquito coil, that coil is being sold in loose in the marketplace. So that means it can attract moisture. I'm in design. I should understand the channel challenges when I'm designing the product. I'm in manufacturing. I should understand the channel challenges while manufacturing my product. So my channel challenges are extremely critical to understand. How sales communicates it, understands it, and how does it translate to fulfillment in the back end. Target challenges, typical challenge for a sales function. I need to fulfill this. In fact, one of my friends who is a purchaser of a company says, the best price you can get is when you call these guys for negotiation the last week of the quarter or last week of the year. You'll get phenomenal discounts. Target challenges. Very, very critical third aspect of sales challenges are promises and commitments. I promise something that I will fulfill it. I commit, definitely it will happen by this date. Is my organization capable of doing that? Is what I need to necessarily have empathy with my backend. The next one, operations. We call operations as customer value fulfillment. Purpose of operations is to fulfill customer value. Again, the three factors. We need to have a clarity about internal capabilities and what internal initiatives I am taking and how all these things are connected to the customer. What capabilities I have, what initiatives I take, and how these capabilities and initiatives are relevant for my customer. The customer need changes. How do I change these capabilities and initiatives? Very interesting. This aspect is very, very crucial aspect. We are given a reverse question mark here. Design as a structural driver. Design essentially is a solution mindset. Design commits. Design commits. Design of product, design of process, design of supply chain, design of organization structure commits all your sins, commits all the value, commits all costs, commits all investment. The most underestimated factor is design. Wait. I am a tier 2 company where there's no design we do. Oh no, you do design. Design in your context is decision. Your decision commits cost. Your decision commits value. Your decision commits investment. So if you want to reduce or arrest, if you want to address the challenges, it is very critical for you to understand how the decision is going to commit your cost. It is going to commit your value. It's commit your future. Very critical. This is one driver which is actually working within. This is one singular driver which is going to connect the external world to the internal capabilities. So design has to be looked at as a ulta soch. That's why the reverse question mark. Combining all together, discovering hidden profitability drivers, sales challenges, exposure to emerging technologies, developing and retaining the right team, gaining and retaining customers, how operations is customer value fulfillment, how design is a structural driver, and ultimately how I work beyond my organizational boundaries, look at the buyer-supplier interface. There are a lot of benefits of becoming a T leader. I'm not reading it out, you can read it yourself. We already talked about it in the beginning itself. It is extremely important to encourage us to think deeper. Sometimes we are afraid to think. In the earlier stage, we do think, but within a matter of few years, our thinking becomes more of a kind of compliance or fulfillment. Now, I'm open for a few questions before we go for the last two parts. I'm open for a few questions. Feel free to open up and ask the question also. We can have a few questions now, definitely. Anybody having any views, any questions, any perspectives you want to share, please feel free to share.
Hi, sir. Good evening. Dhruva Jyoti here.
Yes, Rupa.
Actually, I am from FMCG background, and I have worked 5.5 years in I take your class at SP. But my question is that in FMCG, the main focus in design is just a product development and product design. They don't talk about the process design. And what ends up happening is that they have different systems in different factories, different infrastructure, and they are at present unable to balance and have it in a single platform. So when your system is already established and you don't have the control of design, and you are already screwed up the design part, and your 90 as of course 90% of your cost is already committed, in that case, how do you bring this kind of such a disorganized uh, standards for different factories to a single platform, and at least reach to at a certain level of performance where you can understand, uh, you can create a base for doing the rankings of uh, different factories to get a efficiency yeah, efficiency frontier.
Others can please mute, please. Others can please mute. Yeah, you go ahead. Rupa. Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you have a common platform and create some parameters to get the efficiency frontier for factories, so that you will focus on your host factory
See,
like a wounded bird.
yeah, I understand. The original sin is very difficult to undo. Okay. Original sin is very difficult to undo. I agree with you. But having said that, sometime I have to stop to think about reorganizing my locations as well. Am I correct? See, if you look at carefully, before the GST, the location decision regarding my stocks, my distribution was driven more by the indirect taxes. Post GST, I definitely changed the way supply chain was operating. So it is important for me to go get back to my design table at times. See, inefficiency has no solution, basic inefficiency. But if I have to really get that particular solution, it is very critical for me to get back to my design table. Design table of what? Design table of what are the minimum criteria which I need in every factory for it to operate in this domain, in this business. Number one. Number two, how my decision making flows, how much of decentralization. Just a minute. So how this particular, what are the basic minimum criteria which I need to essentially fulfill? So I need to have that in place. And that is going to bring out what are the gaps I have in across the factories. This is the first point. Second point is FMCG industry predominantly, correct me if I'm wrong, Dhruva Jyoti, predominantly creating capacity is not very difficult compared to a heavy industry.
Yes, sir.
Correct. So that is why if you look at it, FMCG, it is most of the third-party manufacturers easily get into this business. Somebody else holds a brand, somebody else makes it. Am I correct? So yes, there's an advantage. Creating capacities, creating capabilities is relatively simpler in FMCG compared to your core industry. So essentially, when you go back to that, you are actually going back to the design table. Am I correct? Okay, now let us look at, as a T leader, how do I look at? If I'm developing a T leadership mindset, how do I look at? I need to look beyond this and then look at how my structure is impacting me. So if I am going up the ladder, I need to essentially convey this to my bosses. Convey this to my bosses and convey this in a way they will understand it better. Nondescript Mahendra Singh Dhoni was identified by somebody like Rahul Dravid and Sachin Tendulkar standing in slips. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
If Dhoni kept quiet, I don't think they would have recommended Dhoni to anybody.
No,
Is it
I
not?
agree.
So it is important for us to definitely recommend. If somebody else has to recommend me to the next level, it is important I should show that particular quality of empathizing with the others and understanding the business better. Only when you understand the business, you can empathize with others. Only when you empathize with others, you can understand the business. It is a hen and egg. It has to be coexisting. They are not mutually exclusive. I should understand the business context means three things. Understand the interdisciplinary interface, understand customer connect, understand profitability connect. I hope it answers your question.
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Feel free to open up because it is questions bring out the best discussions.
Sir, this is Prateek.
Yep.
Good evening. So I have a very quick question. So thank you for the session so far. So I understand that this forming or getting into this space and trying to have exposure across the various sectors or verticals of your own organization depends a lot on the organization's culture. So what
True.
if somebody is in an organization wherein wherein things are a little too dependent on him when he's in his own vertical? So how should such opportunities be generated? I mean, I'm thinking if there could be a path, irrespective of the organization or organization agnostic, where somebody does not have to depend on the culture to be able to grow in this fashion.
So to answer the question, I will divide this question into three parts. One is neck of the bottle is at the top normally, right? Okay. So let us give it that neck is there, let it be there. So there's,
Right.
but I have to grow up my career as well. Am I correct?
Of course. Of course.
So which is a short-term requirement as well as a long-term requirement. Maybe I'm
course.
going to quit this company for some time. I may be quitting this company maybe in 3 years down the line and move to some other company. Am I correct?
Right. Right.
Move to some other company. No, I'm not telling that you should carry the secret from this company, but you should carry that business understanding of this particular business. That's what will fetch you the next job. Put it very simply, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to essentially develop the team leadership mindset, in spite of the company's culture not allowing you to do it, not encouraging you to do, there is one
Mhm.
very, very simple mantra for this. Not very simple to follow, but a simple mantra for that.
Mm-hmm.
That is, look at the business as your customer.
Okay. Makes sense.
Look at the business as your ultimate consumer.
Mm-hmm.
When you start looking at the business as an ultimate consumer, you understand the business connect much better. Am I correct?
That's true. Yep. Makes sense.
When you understand the business connect much better, then you will be in a position to understand the challenges what you have with other functions. Am I correct?
Right. Right.
So this is the first part. Second part is when you get into a kind of a developing this kind of a team leadership mindset, you need to
Mhm.
essentially understand how your function impacts other function, how other function impacts your function. Am I correct? That's what I said.
Right. Right. That's true.
Connect first. I talked about this also. Interdisciplinary.
True. Yes.
Suppose you go and suppose I am working in another department. You come and tell me, Prateek comes and tells me, Hari, these are the problems I have with you. This is one way you
Mhm.
can approach. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Other way you can approach me is, hey, Hari, tell me, how do you think I can help you out by improving my processes?
Right. Right.
And I will be more forthcoming.
Correct.
Maybe in the second one, right? Maybe I'm not telling
Of course.
certain.
Of course. Probably in the second one. That's true.
Probably in the second one. So it is very crucial for us to look at that. This is extremely important. Number 3, if the organization doesn't have a culture or doesn't have a system to follow this, maybe we may have to do something at a personal level. Am I correct?
Right.
I worked in two companies long time back, Voltas and then with IDBI. Voltas, I was there for 7 months. IDBI, I was there for 9 months. So not worth writing home about that.
Okay.
but still, in Voltas, I was in one of the dirtiest department you can think of, internal audit.
Okay.
That means nobody is going to like you.
I see. Okay.
Because see, you are going to find fault, That's the
Right.
first mind you have.
Of course. Of course.
I was asked to do an audit of one particular function, which is headed by an army major. Major or general, I don't remember. Major or colonel, I don't remember, frankly.
Okay.
General. Okay. So people said he's very tough nut to crack. You cannot go near him. So my boss said, I can't help you out in that.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately what I did, I went with him for lunch 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Talking over the 1971 war. He was part of that.
Wow.
So to cut a long story short, I have to get into his personal space a little bit to get a little bit more about his understanding.
Right. Right.
Is it cheating? I won't say it is cheating. For one simple reason, I was genuinely asking questions because I have a great regard for Fauji's.
Right.
So you have to definitely use some personal connect to get that through.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I see your point.
That's the point I have.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
We'll take one more question and then we'll go for conclusion. Okay. Okay, we'll go to the last 2 parts, 3 parts rather, which is not going to take much time. How we are having the methodology is going to be a mechanism where we are going to lead you to a lot of open sources. There is a lot of information available in the open source, but you should know how to reach it out to it. Am I correct? So we will be giving you a lot of information, a lot of sources from where you can do a lot of self-learning, which is very crucial. Second, this whole team leadership context, we are developing it through an online course where you will be interacting with masters who are all people who are having a lot of experience in the domains, specific domains, and they are able to do so good connect across functions. There will be a lot of WhatsApp support we'll be doing after each module where we will be encouraging questions to be posted in the WhatsApp group, which we will be answering. It can be WhatsApp calls and WhatsApp messages and sharing information through WhatsApp, which we will be having groups within this and then do it. And finally, the timing which will suit your office time. That's the way we are planning it. Who are the people who are going to handle this? These are the people who have committed for doing this, being part of this. Some of them you may be already knowing as well. Everyone is a pioneer in his field and as a phenomenal resource in that field. Dr. Anil Menon is a doctorate in finance. Does a lot of mentorship for startup guys. Anita Bandyopadhyay is one of the very rare kind of a person who is an HR person who absolutely has a business connect with business experience and also academic experience. Ashwatha Nagendra is a man who first talked about supply chain in India somewhere in early 90s when supply chain was nascent in the country. And he has been in consulting in supply chain and teaching. Prasanna is an absolutely self-made man who is into 3D technology and new gen technology. Actually, the company's name is absolutely spot on, next gen technology. Venkatesh is called Pony Venkat. Some of you might have heard about him. He runs his own business and shares his experiences with entrepreneurs and people in industry and also with students on sales challenges. Vinod Manvi is a master in marketing, but moved on to operations. So the connect of operations and marketing is absolutely a rare combination you will find, where he connects that extremely well. And Vinod is there with us today. Vinod, you want to just open up and say a few words? That would be great.
Good evening, everyone. I hope all of us are very, very clear about the kind of background which Hari gave. I believe that this is a real requirement right now because of the oncoming emerging technology, because of the changes which are taking place, or maybe the post-COVID era which is there is going to be, at least in the short and medium term, a lot of confusion in younger minds as to what path they need to take. And I am 100% sure that whatever Hari does, he does it in a great fashion. So this emerging tea leader series is going to do a lot of justice to all the collective knowledge that people have here. So that's it, Hari. That's something.
Thanks, Vinod. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
And finally, we are planning to launch it by January. This is the kind of sequence we have. So my team will be in touch with you definitely to, you can also share this with your other friends, and we'll be putting up this in YouTube, this particular presentation. So that it become easier for you to talk to your clients and also to your friends and also to your team inside the company. Yeah, definitely this is our little bit of contribution to the Indian industry typically, because we are very clear when the leadership series started, we are very clear and we stick to that. We have restricted the number of people who are enrolled for the program. For one simple reason, we want to have it as a more of a one-to-one interaction. So the same thing is going to happen here also. We are not looking at a volume game of 70 people, 80 people and all. We're looking at a kind of a closed group, where we can have more interaction with the faculty and we interact across the peers and the participants as well. So this is what we have to share with you. We definitely look forward to having you in that series. My team will be in touch with you for this. Any questions, any more questions, feel free to ask.